We reached 9,000 subs, guys. And since Hit and Run has proven so popular on this channel, I thought it would be a good idea to talk about another Simpsons game that doesn't receive nearly as much attention.
Welcome to Lee Carvello's Pudding Challenge.
Oh, no, of course I'm talking about the Simpsons game.
Which one do you mean?
The Simpsons game.
What game?
No, it's literally called the Simpsons game.
I still don't get it.
Yeah, let's just start the video. If you're a regular viewer of this channel, you'll know I like The Simpsons.
Well, duh.
But how big a fan am I? Well, I firmly agree with the consensus that the first 8 seasons are the best by far.
No arguments here.
But there are many people out there who seem to think they stopped producing good episodes after season 10.
I've had a good run.
And I completely disagree with this. No, they never again reached the dizzying heights of their heyday, but there are plenty of solid episodes after this period.
Darn tootin'.
However, once the show crossed the threshold into HD territory, my interest finally began to wane. At the very least, you gotta say I gave it a good go. I was a long-time defender of latter-day Simpsons episodes, but now those latter-day episodes are merely the halfway point, and the series is still going. Oh my god, just let it die! But regardless of your stance on the late noughties Simpsons episodes, I'd say this game is still well worth a play. So, what's the name of the game? Well, one thing that a lot of people don't get is that this is supposed to be an homage and or a parody of classic video games.
Can't get used to these curvy walls.
It's called The Simpsons Game, but that doesn't mean it's simply a game based on The Simpsons. Rather, the family discovers that their whole life has been a mere video game.
Alright, fine, I'm a video game guy.
And eventually must find a way to break free from video game purgatory. Or in Homer's case, Burgatory. As a loving tribute to video games, it's no surprise that it's chock full of references to many games throughout. From retro classics like Space Invaders and Frogger, to more modern releases, such as Okami and Kingdom Hearts.
Every lake must feed, every heart return to darkness.
But while an abundance of references certainly opens the key to my heart, it doesn't necessarily make a good video game. And yet for some reason, I saved this one for a special occasion.
What's so special about this game anyway?
Well, Lisa, I'm glad you asked.
Gather around, everyone!
First of all, this video is a little different to the usual. Most often, games I've covered that have more than one console release are more or less the same. But there have been instances when one version of the game is totally different to another one, despite sharing the same title.
What's your point?
The PS2 and PS3 versions of this game are absolutely not the same, but they are so similar that it would feel redundant to talk about them separately. It will likely come as no surprise that the PS2 release is inferior.
Well, obviously.
But that doesn't mean it isn't worth a look. It actually has some interesting parts to it. There's a fair amount of notable differences, some of which I actually prefer over the PS3 game. Many areas are near identical, but maintain some huge differences. I won't discuss every single difference, but to help you distinguish between the PS2 and PS3 footage, this will be present in the PS2 scenes, and this will be present in the PS3 scenes. Get it? Got it? Good.
Can you repeat the part of this stuff where you said all about the things?
One thing I find interesting is that many of the game's cutscenes are hand animated just like the show.
That's amazing!
And yet they've never been released on home video. Going by episode air dates, this game's release followed the season 19 episode I Don't Want to Know Why the Caged Bird Sings.
Everyone down on the floor now!
And yet despite season 19 being available on DVD, the game's cutscenes are not included.
This is the greatest injustice in the history of the world!
As such, this feels like a lost Simpsons episode. Since The Simpsons was not in HD until season 20, excluding the movie of course, surely that makes this the first time The Simpsons was in widescreen HD, which is something of a milestone.
I've never seen a picture so highly defined!
I think the lack of discourse around this game is largely due to expectations. Hit and Run is just that, a hit.
I have no endurance!
And by comparison, many believe this game to fall short, but this is a major gripe of mine. Stop comparing! Okay? Sure, you can compare certain aspects of the game, such as its humour, graphics and character models, but besides being based on The Simpsons, the games themselves are nothing alike. For one thing, Hit and Run is a driving game.
Okay, that's a lawsuit.
This is a co-op action-adventure, and while the experience isn't perfect, it's certainly not a bad game. In fact, this might be a controversial opinion, but I'd say there are several things this game does better.
This is almost as exciting as smooth jazz.
And I'm not talking about minor things like how much better Lard Lad looks. You know, for some reason, Lard Lad in Hit and Run always reminds me of Dan Aykroyd. I really don't know why though. I'll show it side by side, but there's not really much point. It looks nothing like him. See? Nothing like him at all. Personally, I think all of the models in this game are vastly superior. The PS2 version looks a bit blocky and pixelated, and they also seem to run very robotically. Facially, the characters don't have much expression either. There ain't nothing going on in those brains. But in the PS3 version, they look great.
Sweet!
The cell shading makes it look like an actual 3D interactive episode.
No matter what I do, I can't shake this head stubble.
One thing they really got right as well was the lip sync.
Watch it, punk.
Their mouths animate in exactly the same way as in the show.
Now you're talking.
But enough chit-chat. What's the game's plot? Well, strap yourselves in. This is a wild ride. The game begins in Homer's dream sequence, the Land of Chocolate, a reference to one of my favourite episodes of the classic era, Burns für Kaufen der Kraftwerk from Season 3. One thing I can't help but notice is how sterile the animation has become over the years. Yes, it's more consistent in the sense that no drawings are off-model, but the original scene looks so much more fluid and full of character.
Wow, chocolate, half price.
Excuse me, Fatty. You're eating our world.
Anyway, here we encounter the White Chocolate Rabbit, who we need to follow through the Chocolate Village, a la Alice in Wonderland. Or as Homer calls it,
Snow White and Stupid Town.
there are already some notable differences between the versions here, so let's hop to it. You can fight by punching with the square button, but you can also collect energy deposited by enemies to fill your power meter, which can be used for special attacks. When the meter is filled enough, you can perform a special move by holding and releasing the circle button.
I wish Lenny could see this.
Homer's special move is a belch, and it looks and sounds a lot more dramatic in the PS3 version. Furthermore, there's no delay between releasing the circle button and performing the move. The belch is instant. This was an issue I had with the PS2 release, as there's a brief hesitation, during which Homer is susceptible to attack, and his special move can therefore be interrupted. You know, with all these attacking chocolate rabbits, this feels more like a nightmare than a dream to me. In fact, in my experience, chocolate worlds aren't as idyllic as you'd think. I still have PTSD from all that forced labour I had to do when that fat kid got stuck in the pipes for 5 sodding levels. In fact, you know what? I don't really have a good track record around chocolates in general.
Oops. Uh-oh.
Yeah, me and chocolate, we don't mix. As a tutorial level though, this level is a piece of cake. Literally.
Wow, that's enough cake for 2 birthdays.
And merely a taste of what's to come.
Why so slow, Fatty? Eat too many of my relatives?
Before long, we climb to the top of a big layered cake, where Homer can transform into a big ball with the R1 button. Pressing square allows him to perform a fast roll to take out enemies.
See how you hop without a head.
And he can also perform a powerful smash move by jumping and pressing square.
Flatten under my skirt, buddy. Flatten.
After a while, the level fades out and we return to the real world, and Homer realizes that it was all a dream.
Damn you, reality.
This gives a whole new meaning to sweet dreams. As soon as this level concludes, the game cuts to the Simpsons house, and this is the first time you can switch characters by pressing any of the directional buttons.
Finally.
You can only play as 2 characters at a time, and interestingly, while in the PS2 game you can access every room from the outset, in the PS3 version you can only open Lisa and Marge's rooms when you've unlocked them as characters, even though Marge's room is obviously also Homer's room.
Sorry? No homers.
In the PS2 game, when a new level is unlocked, you simply have to walk to the front door of the Simpsons house to activate it, whereas the PS3 version contains a huge open world Springfield, meaning you need to find the location of the next level yourself.
Oh, do I have to?
In spite of what Homer might think, this is a cool feature, and it makes the game feel so much more immersive.
I collect matchbooks from glamorous nightclubs.
Once you've unlocked other members of the family, you can adjust your current party at bus stops, where you can also fast travel to other bus stop locations on the map. Now, I've discussed the open world Springfield in a much older video, comparing it to Springfield in Simpsons Hit and Run, so I'm not going to talk about this too much.
Thank
While overall I think the placement of some buildings was better thought out in Hit and Run, the Simpsons Game Springfield is nothing to sneeze at. Considering the fact that they had to condense the entirety of the town into one map, I think it's a fairly decent attempt.
I wish I were less hesitant to eat foreign cuisines.
My biggest issues aren't really to do with the layout of the town, rather they're more so related to the lack of atmosphere. Occasionally some music stings will play, but they're very subtle and few and far between. Otherwise there's a deafening silence that permeates the town.
Boring.
On the plus side, almost everyone talks.
My dad's a pretty big wheel down at the cracker factory.
And it ranges from iconic quotes from the series to complete conversations with each other.
Hey, Dewey Largo, how's it hanging, skit scat scattlywhack, huh?
One character I find strange is Sarah, Chief Wiggum's wife. She doesn't feature much in the show, but she is fully capable of talking.
I love you, poppin' fresh. Oh, Clancy.
For some reason, in the game, she just repeats her husband's name over and over in different intonations.
Clancy! Clancy! Clancy!
Alright then?
Sarah, are you okay? I don't think she's all there. I think I can see where Ralph gets his, Ralphness from.
My cat's breath smells like cat food.
After the tutorial, the game features a co-op mode in all subsequent levels. Most of the time there are 2 playable characters in each level, although in the PS3 game there are a couple of exceptions, which I'll talk about as we get to them.
Girl power!
A second player can drop in at any time during a level, which is a cool feature. The only drawback for me is that the split screen mode is vertical and cannot be changed to horizontal. It feels very restrictive to me and precludes you from having a good look around. For some reason, the multiplayer mode is unavailable in the open world Springfield, which is a major disappointment. I'm not sure if this is due to the limitations of the PS3 or what, but considering how much time you spend here in this version, this feels like such a letdown.
I'm doomed to walk through this life alone!
What I do find interesting though is that the 2-player co-op mode does function in the PS2 render of the Simpsons house, so if you want to walk around the house with a friend, the PS2 game is your only option.
A good co-op game should always allow you to stick together.
Sticking together is what good waffles do.
Anyway, Bart purchases the new violent Grand Theft Scratchy video game.
There's a free calzone in it for you.
This never happened.
But when Marge finds out, she confiscates it.
I'm putting this game in the same place I put your swimsuit magazines and your BB gun, Homer's underwear drawer.
A short while later, a video game manual for something called The Simpsons Game inexplicably falls from the sky, allowing Bart to discover he has new moves and can transform into Bartman.
Your worst nightmare.
Hey boy, look what appeared in my magic drawer.
After meeting Homer, he joins him underground, and this leads to the level Bartman Begins, in which it's discovered that the school bullies are planning a heist at the Natural History Museum.
We came to this museum to steal, not learn. Don't look at any of the displays. Stay focused.
This seems like the perfect time to talk about Bart's moves. Using his Bartman outfit, he can glide, slide along zip lines, and climb certain walls, and this is pretty much the same in both versions, although the PS3 game adds some sections in which you need to jump from one wall to the next. And this is supremely irritating, mostly due to the camera. It jumps from one perspective to another and completely throws you off.
Trust me, it'll drive you up the wall.
It also doesn't help that if he climbs too far up, he automatically drops to the floor. Needless to say, it becomes extremely infuriating.
I tell you, my worst nightmare ain't the Bartman, it's the bad camera.
In fact, the camera is generally a little frustrating at times. It's not too bad, but sometimes gets stuck on objects and blocks your view. Fortunately, you can recenter the camera by pressing R3, but I felt as though I was forced to use this more often than I should have.
Oh my god, I can't see! Will you just...
Bart can also use his slingshot for a long-range attack, although this operates slightly differently between games. In the PS3 game, his use of ammo depends on the power meter. As long as it's filled, he'll use whatever ammo is available in that level. But if he runs out of energy, he'll refuse to use the slingshot at all. In the PS2 game, the power meter and the ammo are unrelated.
Bart Simpson, huh? I thought I smelled loser.
Instead, when you collect ammo, you'll have a numbered supply. If he runs out of ammo, he can still use the slingshot, but the projectiles are much weaker. Interestingly, Bart's special move is the only one that's drastically different between versions. In the PS2 game, it sees him open his cape to unleash a flock of bats. While in the PS3 version, his slingshot becomes extremely powerful. One other thing you can use the power meter for is a combo attack, and this again is slightly different between versions.
That's a good healthy hatred of authority.
In the PS2 game, pressing square, square and X lets you perform a more powerful finishing move.
That's my boy.
Whereas in the PS3 game, this combo is altered to square, square, triangle for some reason. Otherwise, it operates in a very similar way. Many of the energy collectibles themselves are character specific in the PS3 game, identifiable by symbols for each character. For instance, Bart's energy will be represented by the ammo he uses in that level, while Homer's energy is symbolized by food. I like the idea of this, but it's kind of strange around Springfield to me. Since you can only have 2 characters present at once, you'll come across some energy pickups that you can't always, well, pick up.
What's even the point in there being here? It's quite literally a waste of energy.
Speaking of character-specific collectibles, every character has their own items to find. And finding all of these in a level rewards them with a themed prize inspired by that level, viewable in the Simpsons house. For example, Bart collects Krusty coupons and is rewarded with Krusty posters. Homer collects Duff bottle caps and is rewarded with themed Duff bottles. Lisa collects Malibu Stacy seals and is rewarded with dolls. And Marge collects Try and Save vouchers for hairspray. To view these trophies in the PS2 game, you need to go up to them and press triangle. You do the same in the PS3 game, although the trophies are already displayed prior to inspecting them. For example, Lisa's dolls decorate her shelves, while Bart's posters fill the wall, which would explain why his room is so bloody huge. The parodies here are also very funny. I particularly appreciate Saving Krusty's Privates, obviously inspired by one of Spielberg's best movies.
Es muy bueno.
It should also be noted that collectible hunting feels much more rewarding in the PS3 game. For every 6 trophies you unlock, the power meter extends for the whole family.
And what happens when you find all the collectibles in the game? I'll tell you, but you're gonna have to play the waiting game for a while.
Oh, the waiting game sucks. Let's play Hungry Hungry Hippos.
The main objective in this level is to stop the bullies.
Hey, Bartman! You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? I bet not.
First you need to use your slingshot to trap Dolph under a plesiosaur skeleton.
Oh!
And then you need to pursue Kearney through the diorama. In the PS3 game, you'll need to use the Robo-Bart outfit. Wearing this, he'll not only become temporarily invulnerable, but he'll also be able to shoot lasers through glass. This is essential to hit the targets to activate the diorama in order to lure Kearney out of hiding. However, since this ability is absent in the PS2 game, you simply have to shoot the targets with your slingshot.
What a ripoff.
Invulnerability power-ups in this version have a much more basic appearance, represented by a generic shield. But in the PS3 game, these shields are replaced with character-specific items that make their characters invulnerable and increase their strength. Homer can collect the chili pepper, a reference to El Viaje Misterioso de Nuestro Homer from Season 8. And he will become an invulnerable chili ball that inflicts damage by merely touching things. Other items include a police hat for Marge,
Officer Marge, on the job.
referencing the Season 6 episode The Springfield Connection, and when Lisa collects a Clobber Girl comic, she becomes her alter ego Clobber Girl.
Super Lisa!
A callback to Treehouse of Horror 10 from Season 11. These are neat little references, and it's kind of a shame that the PS2 loses out here.
What a jip.
With Dolph and Kearney dealt with, the last bully to take care of is Jimbo at the planetarium, and the guy providing educational tidbits over the loudspeaker is very amusing.
A belt of asteroids separates the 4 inner planets from the 5 outer planets. My belt separates my gut from my junk.
With the bullies apprehended, it's revealed in a surprise twist that Principal Skinner is behind the heist.
Yes, it is I. I mean, me. No, it is I, yeah.
It turns out that due to budget cuts, he was forced to steal from the museum for visual aids.
Book 'em, Wiggum.
I know I'm supposed to book him. Gosh, you don't have to be such a jerk about it.
And with that, Skinner and the bullies are history.
The ironing is delicious.
And I think this calls for a commercial break.
All right, commercials. Nobody better lay a finger on my Butterfinger.
The next level consists of an eating contest at the Duff Brewery, and in the PS2 game, this just sort of happens. As soon as you head to the front door of the house, you are suddenly at an eating contest without any explanation.
Ciao! What the? We're at an eating contest now? In more ways than one, this is a lot to swallow.
I don't get it.
There's a lack of cohesion in the PS2 game, meaning it feels a lot more meandering and episodic. And yes, I'm fully aware the levels are referred to as episodes, but you catch my drift. In the PS3 game, you not only have to journey across town to the brewery, but there's also some subtle exposition beforehand.
I'm gonna hurl eggs at people signing up for the Duff eating contest. You should sign up.
It's a minor detail, but really helps to make the game flow more smoothly.
You have video game powers on your side. It's like cheating, but cheating.
Woohoo! Cheating!
By this point, Homer has discovered he also has special powers, not just Bart.
Aha! 2 can play at that game, and only 2 because it's a 2-player game, obviously.
Homer's main ability is to eat food and become a big fat ball by pressing R1, just as he did in his dream.
And I'm not fat, it's glandular!
Similar to Bart's slingshot, Homer's power meter and ball meter are totally separate from each other in the PS2 version. Homer consumes food to fill the ball meter, while the power meter is used only for his special attack. Whereas the PS3 game combines these into one meter.
What is that french fry? Where is that?
Otherwise, the differences in this level are mostly very subtle. This is a fun time trial, and I know that might sound oxymoronic, but it's really not that challenging. The contest is split into several zones inspired by countries around the world, and every time you progress to a new food country, 2 minutes are added to the time limit.
Duff is not responsible for contestants turning into balls.
It might not serve any real purpose to the game's overall narrative, but there's nothing wrong with a little healthy competition. Or, unhealthy competition in this case.
Asian message wafer.
The only thing I recall getting a little annoyed with was the CPU character. It would be helpful if they stayed nearby, but they often wander off and wind up somewhere else entirely. There are also times when the character will follow you somewhere, but then just freeze and refuse to leave that spot.
Where are you?
This usually happens when they follow you to the roof of a building or something. You likely won't even think about the secondary character until you need them, and when you switch to them, they'll be somewhere totally different.
Bart, get your butt down here!
It would really help if there was some kind of mini-map allowing you to see the whereabouts of your friend at all times. In 2-player mode, this symbol appears that acts as a sort of compass, giving you a very vague indication of their location.
This map is useless. Useless!
In Springfield, you can use the bus map to see their whereabouts, but otherwise, in single-player mode, the only indication of their activity is a rudimentary symbol by their health meter that merely shows you when they're on the move, which is even more useless.
What's the point?
This level might be Homer-centric, but both he and Bart are needed to progress here, especially since groundskeeper Willie cheats.
You smell of gravy and vomit!
And only Bart can reach him with his glide. Once you finally reach America Land, Homer needs to destroy the chocolate Statue of Liberty.
Lady Liberty has been dealt a severe blow!
And this leads to a fairly amusing but predictable Planet of the Apes reference.
You maniacs! You blew it up!
Is it just me who thinks this parody is done to death?
They blew it up!
It's been done many times before, even by The Simpsons.
You blew it up!
That's not to mention that The Simpsons is responsible for what is arguably the best parody of the Planet of the Apes of all time.
Oh my god, I was wrong. It was Earth all along.
Let's face it, at this point it's a tired cliche. And speaking of cliches,
throughout the game you'll come across video game cliches.
We found another cliche. Am I supposed to be impressed?
And I personally think this is a really cool idea. These are triggered when you encounter a typically overused trope, such as double jumping and invisible walls.
Nice work, video game guy.
Although despite the fact that each game contains 31 cliches in total, there are some cliches that are unique to each version. I also noted at least one cliche that's the same but strangely has a different name.
That's real original.
That, and the ones that are the same, are often triggered in different places. I actually feel that many of them are placed in more logical locations in the PS2 game, while in the PS3 game, some are really obscure. For example, there's the trampolines cliche.
Trampoline!
In the PS2 game, this triggers in an area where there happen to be a lot of trampolines. Whereas in the PS3 copy, it triggers in an oddly specific level for seemingly no reason.
You're a credit to obsessive nerds everywhere.
And it wasn't the first trampoline I used in that level, so I'm assuming it's triggered by one specific trampoline, which is ridiculous. There's a combo punch cliche that can only be triggered if you perform a combo move on every other participant in the eating contest, which is so oddly cryptic.
Nice work, video game guy.
I have to admit, I resorted to reading a walkthrough for this one.
You cheated!
Well, I guess I did.
Cheated, 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 cheated!
What the? No need to rub it in.
Really though, why would you even think to do this? I spent so long hanging around waiting for a cliche to trigger and eventually was forced to give in.
And speaking of hanging around,
the infinite ledge hang cliche is probably the worst of the bunch, as you need to hang from some girders in a very specific level.
Worst video game cliche ever.
Talk about obscure.
How's it hanging, Marge?
Shortly after the contest, we unlock Lisa. At this point, she discovers she has superpowers.
With these abilities, I can be a force for social justice. Oh god, can we skip this level?
And this eventually leads to a typically pro-eco level.
We're going to try and save some beautiful redwoods.
This level is titled Lisa the Tree Hugger, of very little relation to the season 12 episode of the same name. In this level, Lisa and Bart try to stop Mr. Burns committing mass deforestation.
If you want to make an omelet, you have to wreck a few planets.
Naturally, the only way to win this is by striking at the root and destroying the plant. Here the enemies are loggers, who constantly respawn from porta potties. Seriously, how many of you guys are in there? And more to the point, why?
Are you all leaving little logs of your own in there? I don't think I want to know, actually.
Lisa uses her saxophone to stun enemies. Charging the special move makes her perform a powerful sax solo. And this looks so much cooler in the PS3 game.
It's toe-tappingly tragic.
Interestingly though, much like Bart's slingshots, she can't play the saxophone at all unless she has some energy in her meter, whereas in the PS2 copy, she can play her saxophone at any time. Which I actually think makes more sense.
Work is a privilege, not a right.
Now and again, you'll seemingly come to an impasse. There's supposedly nowhere to go.
Well, I for one am stumped.
But fear not, during these parts, Lisa can give you a hand.
And when I say give you a hand, I mean that very literally. You see, Lisa has something called the Hand of Buddha ability. In case you've forgotten,
I'm a Buddhist!
This ability allows Lisa to meditate at Buddha statues so she can lift objects from above by holding the R1 button. For example, you might need to make a makeshift bridge, or move some platforms into place.
So far it seems we're onto a winner, but we're not out of the woods yet.
Hey, that sounds like a tree swallow.
No, it sounds like a yellow-crowned heron.
A fair way into the level, Lenny and Carl are in danger.
Not Lenny!
While bird watching, they find themselves trapped on a conveyor belt. In my opinion, it's very strange how this plays out. Despite the imminent danger, the pair are largely forgotten about until the very end of the level. In the meantime, you need to use Lisa to cross a river in a sequence reminiscent of Frogger. I love that the crocodiles all have 3 eyes here too, which is a nice touch.
Don't be scared, Lisa. Remember Homer's words of wisdom?
Being eaten by a crocodile is just like going to sleep in a giant blender.
Yeah, well, doesn't that feel better?
No.
On the other side, there's a Buddha hand puzzle, and in the PS2 version, I found this a little confusing.
My plant is working perfectly.
The idea is clearly to align the pipes so that Bart can use the updrafts to glide towards the ledge.
Flying majestically like a candy wrapper caught in an updraft.
But the placement of the pipes is really unclear to me. They lock in place, suggesting the solution is correct, but it just looks odd to me. And to make matters worse, the updrafts don't seem too powerful. You have to linger over them for a while before Bart starts levitating. Once Bart has made it to the ledge, Lenny and Carl are shown to be in serious danger. At this moment, a timer starts. After pulling the lever, Lisa can access the Buddha hand statue to rescue Lenny and Carl before they get Fargoed. This sequence is slightly different in the PS3 version, as the timer starts before Bart has reached the other side of the pipes. And since I just completed the PS2 game prior to this one, this majorly threw me off.
Goodbye, cool world. And Carl.
On the plus side, the updrafts in this game are far more effective.
I haven't had my last meal. I want pea soup.
It makes me wonder if the developers moved the timer in the PS2 game due to their feebleness, but who knows? In any case, Lenny and Carl are saved and exceedingly grateful.
I can't believe you forgot our names. You've known us our whole lives.
So, we're not thinking about you all the time, you know?
Yeah, exceedingly.
I'm just so relieved Lenny's okay.
Finally, Bart can shut down the factory with his slingshot. Disappointingly, this final sequence is replaced with a mere cutscene in the PS2 copy. In any case, Mr. Burns' operation is finally shut down.
Well,
This calls for a celebration.
But this comes at a cost, as Lisa's eco-friendly tunnel vision obviously puts many innocent loggers out of work.
How are we supposed to feed our families now?
Seems Lisa can't see the forest for the trees.
You want me to have some goons rough up Al Gore?
I'd like that.
Meanwhile, in light of calls to ban the new violent video game Grand Theft Scratchy, Marge discovers that Mayor Quimby has accepted a bribe from the game's producer.
Give me your ride, jerk!
After seeing that the game is affecting the behaviour of the local children, Marge discovers her power is that she can nag crowds to do whatever she wants.
Just like Oprah. Okay, let's stop that video game.
Marge's gameplay sees her use a megaphone to get people's attention.
March together.
They will then become part of her mob, and she can then direct them to certain things to build or destroy.
Be what heaven feels like, kinda underwhelming.
The gameplay kinda reminds me of Pikmin, and Clank's parts of Ratchet & Clank. All of the enemies are inexplicably immune to her persuasive powers. Case in point, you can't get the police to join your mob. But in the open world Springfield, you can recruit Lou.
Coolest cop in town just joined your mob.
Seriously, what exactly are the mob rules?
Who's boss?
The idea here is to destroy all of the Grand Theft Scratchy floats, and make your way to the town hall. Sometimes you can instruct the mob to disassemble something that Lisa can then use to create a bridge.
I'm smart.
It's also quite amusing that Lisa can willingly drop cars on people, including her own mother.
Sorry, Mom, it was an accident. I have, poor motor skills.
I like it when characters have to work together to progress, and although Marge is probably my least favourite character to control, her and Lisa's abilities complement each other well. Marge can also instruct the mob to attack people.
I have no problem dishing out pain. Namaste.
I love that she's humorously unaware of the irony that she's committing horribly violent acts to censor a mere video game.
Fight fire with fire, that's what I always say.
By the way, people always talk about Homer's character devolving into jerk-ass Homer in the post-classic seasons.
Yes, go on.
But I always felt that Marge's character was noticeably inconsistent after the 90s. There are times she acts as dumb as Homer. Fortunately though, her characterization in this game isn't too bad.
The nagging and protesting is in character at least, but the violence? I don't think this would sit well with classic Marge.
Smashy, smashy.
I don't approve of that.
As is the case with everyone else, Marge cannot use her megaphone to recruit new mob members without a partially filled power meter in the PS3 game. But it's fully operational regardless on the PS2.
Let's go!
Once you've established a mob, holding the L1 button will allow you to target certain objects or enemies, and pressing circle instructs the mob to focus on these.
Who's boss?
Oh, and by the way, if your partner is knocked down in either game, you can revive them by approaching them and pressing the triangle button. One thing I noticed is that in the PS2 version, this is also the case with any members of Marge's mob. Meanwhile, in the PS3 version, the mobs are far less well behaved. You have no choice but to wait for them to come round, and when they do, they just start running around screaming, meaning you need to chase them down and re-recruit them.
Okay, everyone.
Well, this is a pain in the arse. If the power meter is filled enough, you can perform a megaphone blowback for a powerful attack.
Mom, you're terrifying. You're a coward.
As with Hit and Run, I do feel as though Marge drew the short straw for this game. Aside from receiving the least screen time, in my opinion her moves aren't the best.
Tear it down.
Even her charged attack feels uninspired.
In more ways than one, it blows.
While we're on the subject of complaining, I want to talk about poles.
I love what you've done with these poles.
The physics when jumping from them is atrocious. It's hard to explain, but when you perform a jump, the character will often remain fixed in place, and only push themselves forwards on the second jump. It's incredibly frustrating, especially if you've got to use several poles in succession, and accidentally drop to the ground. In both versions, climbing up poles feels slow, but if you want to slide down the poles, the characters drop far too quickly. It's ridiculously sensitive. I'm not sure if it's just me, but I also have serious issues with depth perception in this game, particularly in parts when the camera fixes in place. I'm not sure if it's related to the cell shading or what, but I sometimes found it hard to tell precisely where my character was in relation to a pole or a platform.
The PS2 PS2 game is particularly janky, but this is an issue I had in both versions. In this instance, they're not what I'd call poles apart.
Marge can also deploy Maggie and use her to enter crawl spaces and activate switches.
Be careful, little Maggie.
I like that you can control Maggie from her perspective. It's cool that she's playable, if only as an extension of Marge rather than as her own character. That said, I think it would have been better if the game explicitly stated that Maggie had some kind of invulnerability power. Luckily, Maggie doesn't receive damage. If you accidentally touch a hazard, the controller will vibrate and she'll just get pushed backwards. All the same, it feels rather strange that Marge would willingly let her own baby enter vents like this.
Maybe child welfare were right to take the kids away.
What? No!
I'd call social services myself, but after what happened with Cobra Bubbles kicking Lilo, I'm not sure who to trust anymore.
The level culminates in a huge riot in front of the town hall, just as Quimby is about to accept the bribe in a hot tub with a purposely unnamed video game producer.
Thank you.
First you need to instruct the mob to destroy the Itchy and Scratchy statue. And then send Maggie into a vent at the town hall to increase the temperature of Quimby's hot tub.
Dear God, we're not soaking, we're cooking.
This eventually causes the producer to notice the mob outside,
Senator!
prompting him to back out of the deal.
I have decided to flip-flop and ban sales of Grand Theft Scratchy for minors, the only people who want to play it.
One thing that bothers me about the PS2 game is that it blatantly uses the PS3 cutscenes, even when the character models and locations aren't quite the same. One of the cutscenes in this level features a Malibu Stacy seal on top of the town hall, which is only present in the PS3 version. It just feels a little lazy to me. Anyway, Marge finally achieves victory, but not before Lisa points out the hypocrisy of her violent protest.
I'm sorry, Lisa, what? I just can't hear you over the roar of this appreciative crowd.
This concludes what I see as the first act of the game, so I think it's time for another mini break. What do you think?
Oh, God, go to a commercial.
Okay. We'll be right back.
Nobody better lay a finger on my Butterfinger.
The family then gather at home and reflect on their newfound powers.
Your little stud with the loggers has put an army of regular Joes out of work. Way to go!
As the family come to blows, the aliens turn up. Yes, aliens.
Bet you didn't see that one coming.
See, I told you this story jumps around.
Plot is hard enough to follow as it is.
This kicks off the next act of the game, which sees the aliens bring Lard Lad to life. And they also cause the dolphins to rise from the sea and invade. Now, obviously these are references to the series Treehouse of Horror episodes, but if you're unaware of this part of the game feels like it comes right out of left field.
Aliens? Bet they're here to take our job.
Naturally, this prompts the family to learn to work together to overcome the threat of invasion, but they quickly discover their powers are too weak.
We need to stop these spaceships, and there's only one person in Springfield who's smart enough to figure out how. I drank blue juice from under the sink. Oh, let's just find Professor Frink.
It goes without saying that in the PS3 game, you literally have to walk to Frank's house, but in the PS2 game, you gain access to the Simpsons' backyard, where you simply need to approach the side gate to start the level. Before we do though, I just want to quickly mention something. I talked about this before in my Springfield video, but while we're here, I want to point out that you can see Santa's little helper cowering in his doghouse. I think this is a really nice touch, but he's nowhere to be seen in the PS3 version, and therefore does not make an appearance in the game at all.
Poor Santa's little helper.
On visiting Frank's house, the pair quickly find he's missing, and after breaking into the cellar, they discover why. The pair then find themselves in the game engine, where video games are made, and explain to Frink that they need upgrades. Luckily, Frink has a solution.
Behold, the strategy guide.
All of a sudden, Frink is taken hostage by a Donkey Kong knockoff.
Help! An oversized monkey and his touches are unwelcome.
Indeed, it's not all fun and games. Well actually it is. This whole place is a retro gamer's paradise.
Initially, this level feels like a cool idea. It's like a massive factory, producing all the components that make video games. And it's amusing that its upkeep is based on the slave labor of old retro video game characters, like Sonic and Mario.
I have not seen my native land in so long.
Luckily, Frink has dropped some pages of the strategy guide across the level, and collecting them gives you an upgrade. First, you're introduced to Bart's grapple. If you're facing a target, the grapple icon appears. And if you press triangle, Bartman will use the grapple to pull himself towards it. This is a cool feature, however I do wish it was a different button. See, the triangle button acts as a general interact button, and there were some occasions when the game got confused whether I wanted to use my grapple or activate something. Most often it got it right, but all the same, mistakes like this could be easily prevented if you just use a different button.
Don't harm the beard.
This is such a common issue in games, and it's a major pet peeve of mine. A little while later, Lisa's stun move is upgraded so that stunned enemies will now attack each other.
Ironically, Jazz makes me want to punch someone too. No superpower required.
After a short while, this level sadly gets old. It feels like it goes on for a long time, which is not exactly true. It can be completed in well under 15 minutes. It just feels so boring traveling from room to room.
This place blows.
And on top of that, Bart and Lisa keep repeating the same lines of dialogue over and over again.
This factory needs a muckraker. I hope I get to meet Zelda. Zelda! This factory needs a muckraker. I hope I get to meet Zelda. Zelda! This factory needs a muckraker.
Oh my god, will you shut up?
I can't believe you don't shut up.
I appreciate the location more so for its clever references than its gameplay. The posters dotted around are hilarious. You've got Need for Speedo, Mortal Kombat with Ned Flanders, and my personal favourite, Mega Mole Man. But the level itself is a little on the dull side, and the enemies are rather irritating, particularly the footballers who take out a huge chunk of your health when they tackle you. In the PS2 game, enemies seem really tough to beat. Often you have to knock them down a number of times before they finally fade away.
That and the hit detection is, very hit and miss. And I mean that very literally.
That is my only way of communication.
Sometimes you can be swinging your fists at them and there's simply no response. The enemies often defend themselves too, which just makes the fights go on for longer. In this version you can perform a jump kick to break their defense, a move which is totally absent in the PS3 release. Although the enemies often immediately return to their defense stance anyway, so it feels a bit pointless. In the penultimate room, both games have a puzzle to solve to reach the final pipe to the boss room, but it's very different in each one. In the PS3 game, you need to use Lisa to move some platforms one by one so that Bart can grapple over to them. As soon as Bart reaches the lever, both he and Lisa can gain access to the pipe. Meanwhile, in the PS2 game, Lisa simply needs to bridge the gaps between the matching coloured pipes to create a path for Bart. This is much simpler and also very ill thought out in my opinion. Only Bart can reach the final pipe, so Lisa just kinda magically appears in the next room.
What are you doing here?
As we approach the level boss in the PS2 copy, Lisa's Buddha hand is upgraded to include a Buddha smash. By pressing circle, you can smash enemies from above. Meanwhile, in the PS3 game, you can perform a Buddha flick move with the square button. It's very similar to Buddha smash, except it propels enemies into nearby objects and destroys them. The idea here is to knock the ape off his platform and into the slime.
In other words, to, knock off the knockoff.
In the PS2 game, Lisa needs to use 3 Buddha statues dotted around the arena. After using a statue to smash the ape, it will be destroyed, meaning you'll have to find and use another one. The PS3 version is much simpler, as there is only 1 Buddha statue. But the developers probably thought this would be enough of a challenge, considering you also need to fight off the enemies to keep your power meter topped up. With the ape defeated and Frink rescued, the pair return to Springfield with the strategy guide, leaving Frink behind with his new Koopa Troopa bride.
Oh, and she's funny too.
With the strategy guide, Homer receives the Helium Homer ability, which allows him to use helium tanks so he can float upwards with the X button. He can also blast himself forwards using the square button. But pressing X and square makes the helium meter deplete quicker, and this is the main reason I'm not keen on this move. It works the same in both games, although in the PS3 game, when Homer inflates, his vocals are high-pitched, which is a nice touch.
Look at me! I'm as light as a princess!
Although it doesn't make this move any less irritating to use.
Yeah, whenever I see a helium tank in this game, I feel, ironically deflated.
Curse the man who invented helium. Curse Pierre-Jules, says our Jensen.
Now we're suitably upgraded, we're ready to deal with the invasion. Once again, the PS3 version is far superior. You really feel the impact of the alien invasion, largely because it extends to all of Springfield. The next few levels can be played in your order of choice, and as you make your way to them, aliens are all over the place, and a constant annoyance. Meanwhile, in the PS2 game, you access these levels from the backyard instead.
All the prophecies about my future, can be conveniently left this out.
First I'll talk about Shadow of the Colossal Donut, which is basically a boss fight against Lard Lad.
You'll have to stop him, Bart! I'm too drunk!
I like the fact that the title and even the level itself is a reference to Team Eco's Shadow of the Colossus. As is the case with that game, Lard Lad has some obvious weak spots. The idea is to shoot open Lard Lad's hatches on his back one by one, and then pull the cables inside. Besides the first hatch that you can access at ground level, the other two require you to find a way to access them from above, due to how high up they are. And this can be a bit of an issue depending on where you are. In the PS3 version, there are plenty of fire hydrants Homer can destroy so Bart can glide over to them. But in the PS2 version, I personally find it helps to try and stay around a construction site, as there aren't as many updrafts.
Only in a town this morbidly obese would we have so many billboards with food on them.
Just to add to the annoyance, Lard Lad has brought some tiny crusties on a billboard to life, and these guys are relentless.
Trust me, despite the name, they're not clowning around.
Throughout the fight, news reporter Kent Brockman documents the events while circling in a helicopter, and his commentary is genuinely hilarious.
I should put my career on a billboard and see if Lard Lad can bring that to life.
Even if the gameplay doesn't do it for you, you have to admit that the game is at the very least funny. Despite the swarms of mini clowns, Lard Lad is surprisingly easy to beat. And he's far from the biggest problem with the level. One of my biggest issues is that I think there are too many collectibles. Or maybe the location is simply too large. You see, you'll spend most of your time here wandering around searching for bottle caps and coupons, which really shouldn't be a high priority.
It's a bottle cap. Jewel encrusted?
Still, it's not long before Lard Lad is defeated.
Eat fist, Lard Crotch!
Man, Homer and Bart are on a roll. Homer in the literal sense.
Another level here sees Bart and Lisa encounter Captain McAllister at Paradise Pier.
I tried to fight back, but all I could see were snouts and blowholes.
He agrees to help them fight back against the dolphins, but first we need to navigate the dilapidated pier.
Damn it, learn to use tools!
I actually really like this level. Treehouse of Horror 11 is far from my favourite Halloween episode, but it works for this part of the game. I also appreciate the use of Paradise Pier as its setting, first seen very briefly at the beginning of Marge's sun poisoning in Season 17.
Ever since I was a little girl, I've wanted to ride that Ferris wheel.
Now, the parts of the level that take place on the pier look very similar in both games, but the map is totally different. In the PS2 game, it's a lot more straightforward. There is a part when you need to use the Buddha hand, but otherwise it merely consists of basic combat and journeying from one side of the pier to the other. In the PS3 game, you need to flick the dolphins into billboards to make a bridge, and later flick them to destroy a boat ride. Seriously, there are so many dolphins here.
Hey, do you think all the dolphins are evil? Or do you think some of them gave in to peer pressure? Get it? Peer? I'm sorry, okay? I couldn't resist.
Once you get to the aquarium, the games look near identical, although there is one major difference. You see, in the PS2 game, you need to use Lisa's Buddha hand to lift the electric eel and place it in the water beneath King Snorky.
It's working, Lise!
Then, using Bart, you need to use your slingshot to drop Snorky in the electrified water. And that's that.
Well, that went surprisingly swimmingly.
Meanwhile, in the PS3 version, you need to drop the big jellyfish in the eel tank and then transfer the jellyfish to Snorky's pool. Oddly, you need to do this 3 times to beat Snorky, and I actually think I prefer the PS2 version in this instance. For one thing, this feels needlessly repetitive, and the fact that Snorky keeps getting back on his pedestal after being electrocuted is just plain stupid.
Come on! Dolphins intelligent, my blowhole.
The last of these levels is Invasion of the Yokel Snatchers, in which the aliens raid the mall.
Perhaps they're green with envy over our low prices.
More importantly, they also abduct innocent citizens, including our favourite slack-jawed yokel.
We must study him.
Study him with anal probing?
Of course with anal probing! What else would we do? Talk to him?
Naturally, it's up to Homer and Bart to deal with the aliens and save everyone. Despite being the one level that's all about the aliens, I actually find this to be one of the weakest, most unmemorable levels of the game. And it's also surprisingly challenging.
Oops, looks like I got mauled at the mall.
Although to be honest, I mostly died because of the frankly horrendous placement of this Krusty coupon. It's obvious you're meant to ascend the parking lot pole and then glide over to it, but the big H makes it exceedingly difficult to jump from the very top. Now, as we enter the ruined Quickie Mart, the PS3 version contains a short sequence inspired by Space Invaders, which was of course expected. Although this is completely cut from the PS2 version, as Homer and Bart are immediately beamed aboard the alien ship, which I see as a strange choice, especially based on Homer's quote here.
I knew all those quarters I spent in the 80s would come in handy.
This game's purpose is to both honor and parody classic video games. Why would you not include this sequence?
In your face, aliens!
Anyway, as soon as we're beamed aboard, we free Cletus, who wants to exact revenge on the aliens.
Those green fellers started a feud that won't be over till I poke something in their void holes.
Gross, but fair.
Using Homer Ball, you need to close off all the doors to stop the aliens respawning. And while this is happening, I couldn't help but notice this reference to Zero Wing. They really like referencing this, don't they?
All you Simpsons are belong to us.
All your base are belong to us. All your base are belong to us.
Alright, we get it.
Speaking of references though, I actually think they missed a trick here, as they could have included a reference to Pong, which would have been appropriate since this was the high-tech game Kang and Kodos proudly showed off to the Simpsons in their first appearance.
Get with the times, man.
Once all of this is over, it's revealed that the culprit behind the shopping mall raid is none other than...
Sideshow Bob.
Wait, what?
It's pretty weird that you'd be working with the aliens.
Try not to think about it too much.
Yeah, this makes absolutely no sense. I'm aware they acknowledge this, but part of my issue with this game is that story-wise, it's relatively short, and yet there's so much crammed into it.
I told you to pick up your space rake.
I appreciate all the cameos and the meta humor, but the plot becomes bloated and nonsensical. Did we really need an appearance by Sideshow Bob?
And trust me, if you're feeling alienated by the plot now, it's only gonna get worse.
I can't do this anymore, it's too confusing!
Phew, you know what? This is a long review. Maybe we should take another break.
We'll be right back.
Nobody better lay a finger on my butterfinger.
Upon their return to the house, the family realizes they need more upgrades.
These space octopuses are gonna get jiggy all over Springfield. Did I use jigging right?
Lisa suggests looking online for more cheats, but Homer's interjecting leads to more chaos.
It says that we need to find...
Move it! I want to play solitaire.
The family then find themselves in the game engine, where they come face to face with Will Wright, creator of The Sims.
That's why I live here now, finding a home for old games nobody plays anymore.
He threatens to destroy the Simpsons' obsolete pixelated selves by incinerating their video game, Escape from Krusty Island.
We look so pixely!
And poorly rendered.
Which one is supposed to be me?
This is a short Homer and Bart level in which you need to race against the clock and shut down the incinerator before your pixelated pals are pulverized. And I love that Homer's food in the game engine is represented by cherries, which is clearly a nod to Pac-Man.
That's what I call a bite to eat. Get it? Bite? You literally have to eat bits of 8-bit. I'll show myself out.
As soon as our outdated doppelgangers are rescued, they suggest entering the mansion of the creator, responsible for creating a bunch of Simpsons video games.
You cannot pass this gate without all 4 key cards.
The problem is, we need 4 key cards to gain access to the mansion, and these cards can only be found within the new video games in development. But before we enter the games, we have some upgrades, courtesy of Professor Frank. Interestingly, this is the first of 2 areas in the PS3 game in which you can switch between all 4 party members, and you need to do so in order to upgrade each character. Meanwhile, the PS2 version simply sees you control Homer and Lisa, while Bart and Marge's abilities are just lazily conveyed to you via text afterwards.
Oh, this sucks. I am out of here.
Anyway, what are the upgrades? First, you unlock Gummy Homer, accompanied by a brief tutorial.
I like to call this part Gummies for Dummies.
Collecting gummies allows Homer to turn into a gummy version of himself with the R2 button. And yes, the observant of you will note that they're Venus de Milo gummies, inspired by the episode Homer Badman.
Precious Venus.
This new power is subsumed under the standard power meter in the PS3 game, but is represented by a separate green gummy meter in the PS2 game. In both versions, Homer can shoot projectile gummy grenades with the circle button. But interestingly, in the PS2 game, he has another move called Gummy Blast, which allows him to attack nearby opponents with the square button. I don't know why this is absent on the PS3, but it's really nothing too special.
Now for some learning! Hooray!
Meanwhile, Lisa's Buddha hand ability is upgraded to include a lightning move.
Oh, the hang of it you're getting.
In the PS2 game, this replaces the Buddha Smash, while in the PS3 game, it's a separate move to the Buddha Flick.
Oh, terrific.
Additionally, the PS3 game also grants her the ability to freeze enemies with the X button, and then use them to solve puzzles. If you hadn't already noticed, Lisa's moves received a major upgrade in the PS3 copy.
This is the best present I ever got!
But slingshot and glide abilities are also upgraded, as is Marge's megaphone. Interestingly, in the PS3 game, it states that the megaphone now has a more powerful blowback, while in the PS2 game, it states that Marge's mob can now throw projectiles.
Oh, you want a rock fight, eh?
Now it's time to enter the 4 separate video games within the game engine to obtain the keycards. And as was the case with the Halloweeny levels, the order in which you play them is entirely your choice. All 4 of these levels are inspired by real-life franchises, and as such, for me, this act is without a doubt the most interesting. All but one level, that is, but we'll get to that later. For the most part, it feels genuinely inspired. It's just a shame it feels crammed into the game's latter half.
They are fun-inspired parodies. It's just a shame it happens so late in the game, so to speak.
Ooh, a nerd level. I hope there aren't too many nerds there.
First we have NeverQuest. Now, the title of this game is a reference to the game EverQuest, but aside from the name, there's not really any connection. It's more of a Lord of the Rings parody than anything else.
Help! Help! Someone save us! My ears are pointy!
While Homer and Marge are in costumes very similar to Link and Princess Zelda.
You're one sexy MILF.
The word is elf, and no snuggling till we do the right thing.
I've always found it a little strange that, during this period in the late noughties, both The Simpsons and Futurama had rather elaborate Lord of the Rings parodies, even though the movies were already several years old by that point.
Unbelievable!
Not that it matters much, but the references felt outdated to me even when these parodies were new.
Obey the Milk Queen!
The level opens with a boss fight against a two-headed dragon, humorously played by Marge's chain-smoking sisters Patty and Selma.
Earth is confusing!
The dragon will fly around and burn the hobbit houses.
Fire is the cleanser.
As Marge, you need to form a mob of hobbits.
I call them mobbits.
Hobbits assemble!
There are many duplicates of Rod, Todd and Ralph that you can recruit, and you need to get them to repair the burning houses before they're destroyed. Meanwhile, Homer needs to use his ball ability to inflict damage on the dragon. Interestingly, the PS3 version is very similar, but Homer's move has a different effect. Rather than causing damage, the dragon will drop to the ground, at which moment Marge needs to command the mobbits to attack while it's incapacitated.
Ouch! My cancer!
These short Shire people sure have a tall order to fill.
Over here, you little idiots!
There are many more mobbits in this version, and as annoying as they can be, this version is definitely superior. It's really odd to me that on more than one occasion, Marge says,
Yeah, but it's still nice to get away from the kids.
I know she's obviously referring to Bart and Lisa specifically, but seriously, this level is full of kids.
Okay, shut the fuck!
On the whole, I like this level, although the setting could be a little more interesting. The opening scenes are definitely the most visually appealing, but once the dragon has been dealt with, the rest takes place in a dingy grey dungeon.
By the look of it, not a snuggle dungeon either.
It's not bad at all, but the opening kinda sets you up for something more visually captivating, especially when Marge comments,
What a pretty level.
One thing I noted here is that some of the character designs are very similar to those of Earthland Realms, a multiplayer online game seen in Season 18's Marge Gamer, particularly Marge's elf appearance and Patty and Selma as a two-headed dragon.
Slay him and take his experience points!
It's likely the episode derived inspiration from the game while it was in production.
Gee, I never noticed that before.
In both games, there's a rather lengthy section in which you have to cross through the dungeon to the dragon's lair. Here you encounter Ghost Otto, who's got to be one of the most irritating enemies. He basically blows himself up when he gets close to you. In the PS2 version, there's a delay before the explosion, so you get the chance to avoid it. But in the PS3 version, you can't dodge this. He just bursts at random and sends you flying.
Seriously, you don't have a ghost of a chance.
There are a lot of enemies here, and most of them are Mo Orcs, or Morks. The level shakes things up a bit with an overhead POV section. I'm not too sure what it's meant to be inspired by specifically, although Homer name drops Dig Dug.
It's like my favorite old school sword and sorcery video game, Dig Dug.
Even though it's absolutely nothing like Dig Dug. It doesn't even have an overhead POV, although I think that's the joke.
Kick your ass in every way.
Anyway, here you simply need to run around collecting gold keys to open gold doors. Interestingly, the PS2 game is animated better, in the sense that there's a visual effect when the key is retrieved.
Save keys to open doors.
And the doors open very smoothly. In the PS3 game, the keys just disappear when collected, as do the doors when they unlock. I guess this is a more accurate representation of retro video games, but it's still a little odd to me that the PS2 looks more advanced. Both games feature a Maggie section, in which you need to search for a switch inside a large dragon statue, although interestingly the method of reaching the dragon's eye is very different.
I'm on Marge's team.
While in the PS2 version, Marge instructs the Mobbits to build a trampoline, in the PS3 version she needs to get some Mobbits to sacrifice themselves in order to raise some platforms, which is pretty morbid.
Sorry, little guys. You didn't die in vain. I assume.
That's what I call an act of elf harm. By the way, is it just me or is this really dark? I know we're in a video game here, but Marge just brainwashed some children into sacrificing themselves.
Rush to your teeny weeny dome.
Seriously, what the hell?
As soon as Maggie opens the way for us, we reach the level's final boss. Now, this is another one of the rare occasions the PS2 game is better in my opinion, although I'm somewhat conflicted. The PS3 game gives you this weird side-scrolling mission, in which you need to use Helium Homer to bop the dragon on the head a few times. And at one point you need to float around collecting the eggs before they hatch more morks. This pays homage to the retro video game Balloon Fight, which is cool and all, but to me it feels like a major anticlimax. It feels more like a mini-game than an end-of-level boss fight. Meanwhile, the PS2 game plays it straight. While I guess you could argue that it's less inspired and once again loses out on a classic video game reference, this is so much more satisfying to round off the NeverQuest game. And by the way, I love that the dragon's nest is an ashtray. That's a nice touch.
Speaking of which, I think it's about time we ate out yay the ashtray. Did I say that right?
In this boss fight, the idea is to use Marge to get the Mobbits to harvest Gummy for Homer, who can then use his Gummy ability to take out the dragon. I think you're also supposed to get one of the Mobbits to act as a sacrificial decoy, so that the dragon hovers in one spot. Although this is totally unnecessary, as the dragon flies around pretty slowly anyway. Defeating the dragon rewards us with the first keycard.
My precious.
By the way, completing levels that feature new character skins unlocks new costumes that can be accessed from the closet at the Simpsons house. As expected, this is exclusive to the PS3 version, which is a little disappointing for the PS2 game. Although, in fairness, since you're relegated to the confines of the Simpsons house, it hardly seems worth having unlockable costumes anyway.
I don't need new clothes.
Next up we have Medal of Homer, inspired by war-themed video games.
What war is this?
Don't they teach you anything in school? It's the Civil War, duh.
Obviously the title is derived from Medal of Honor, but there's also a reference to Castle Wolfenstein here. In terms of gameplay though, there's nothing at all unique about it. In fact, it mostly seems to be inspired by the Season 7 episode Raging Abe Simpson and his grumbling grandson in The Curse of the Flying Hellfish. The level begins with a briefing from Abe Simpson, who tells us that the French town of Ville de Saint-Capitulon is due to be invaded, and that we're to parachute in and rendezvous with him and Private Burns.
You boys are my favorite privates, and you know how much I love my privates.
The first thing I noticed here was that the level opens in the same way in both versions, but the gag at the very beginning is omitted from the PS2 version. See, before they land, Homer and Bart have this interaction.
I can't look, I'm scared of heights. Tell me when we're about to land.
You can look now.
But sadly, due to the poor timing of this scene, the PS2 version completely misses the joke.
Tell me when we're about to land.
You can look now.
Well, that was a misfire. Why did they bother including the setup if they're not going to include the punchline?
We are, how you say, finished.
As the village surrenders, Burns suggests that he and Abe remove all the priceless paintings from the village.
You know, for safekeeping.
Meanwhile, we need to remove all the white surrender flags scattered around the place.
Yoink.
Some of the citizens will be carrying flags in the PS3 game, but in the PS2 copy, they're all stationary.
Wow! I feel slightly lighter than air!
And by the way, I like that the Frenchmen are duplicates of the Frenchmen from Season 1's The Crepes of Wrath.
The floor is good enough for you. You go to sleep there.
Considering they treated Bart like a slave in that episode, I have no qualms about shooting them down. Au revoir, bitches!
The second act of this game takes place in Africa.
The Simpsons are going to Africa!
And it's an escort mission, in which you need to take out the surrounding hazards to protect Abe and Burns' truck full of paintings. This is my least favourite part of the level. It's not as bad as it could be, but the truck moves far too quickly, especially if you want all the collectibles. To my surprise, this part of the level is totally absent from the PS2 game. While I'm not keen on this mission, it nonetheless feels essential. Not just because of the level's narrative pacing, but also because it's yet another sequence that acknowledges a common video game trope, the escort mission.
Thanks a sport, boys! I'm proud of you. Maybe I won't have that vasectomy.
Soon, Burns' motives come to light, and he steals the paintings.
Missed me, now you have to kiss me.
The final part of the level takes place on board an aircraft carrier, and having all the sailors be Smithers is a stroke of genius.
Burns giving me penny candy, what do you give me?
Whoever came up with that idea needs a raise.
Way to wheel that Smithers, boy.
While much of this act plays out very similarly in both versions, there are minor changes. Most notably, the cutscene showing the plane crash is very different. The PS2 version plays it straight, while the PS3 version goes for a more comical approach. In the PS2 game, I had some issues with the CPU characters here. Homer refused to climb the ladder without my intervention, but when I switched to him, Bart stood on the ladder blocking my way.
Ugh, screw the war. I'm fighting a losing battle with the game's AI.
Now, the idea is to use Homer to plant C4 explosives and progress through the ship, eventually reaching Mr. Burns at the very top to deal with him once and for all. In the PS3 version, you're required to defeat him, which humorously only requires a single punch.
Oh.
While in the PS2 copy, you just have to land next to him and the level just ends.
I guess you could say in several ways, the PS2 game lacks punch.
You hid our cowardice and brought back the pride of our village, our paintings.
Then we have Big Super Happy Fun Fun Game. This level sees Homer and Lisa stuck in an anime-inspired Japanese game.
But I'm not eating sushi, unless it's covered with chocolate and there's no sushi in it.
Here the pair find themselves in the realm of Mr. Dirt, aka Milhouse, who's donning some kind of Katamari Damacy style getup.
I'm the king around here, guys, and you're gonna have to deal with it!
Here we're bombarded with comic book guy sumo wrestlers.
Knocked me out of my mawashi.
This is at first amusing, but these guys are tough. In the PS2 game, they charge at you from afar and send you flying.
Look at my tailbone.
While in the PS3 game, they roll at you.
It's a smushing time.
The objective is to use Lisa's Buddha statues to place 3 lanterns around the big toilet.
1,000 thanks, fat one and retro nerd.
You okay, buddy? You look a little, flushed.
This is to speak with Mr. Sparkle, who Simpsons fans will know is actually the logo for the Japanese detergent in Season 8 episode In Marge We Trust.
There's your answer, Fishbulb.
Mr. Sparkle has been banished to the underworld by Mr. Dirt, and advises Homer and Lisa to journey to all 3 corners of the land to retrieve Sparklemon, an obvious reference to Pokemon. The first door to be unlocked leads to the lava section. And this is much bigger in the PS3 game. In fact, the inferiority of the PS2 version is very obvious in this level.
Hey, lamewads, follow me so I can totally stomp your butts.
As soon as we find Jimbo, the game alters to a turn-based Pokemon-style boss fight. However, the PS2 version merely shows you a cutscene of somebody playing this section for you. To add to the disappointment, the audio quality is horrendous. At first I thought there was a problem with my disc, as Homer's vocals started skipping.
I summon wonderful magical animal!
But no, it genuinely sounds like this. I also noted that there are some trampolines in the PS3 game that don't work in the PS2 copy.
Indeed, in this level, the PS2 game bounces out.
Shortly after this, we capture Jimbo's Sparklemon, and we then head to the snowy section.
I'll freezer burn you like a pack of chicken breasts.
As before, the PS2 game is much simpler here. Homer just has to roll into some platforms that Lisa can use to create steps to the next boss room.
I wonder if all the wildlife is hibernating.
But in the PS3 version, the area is much larger, and requires Homer to use his helium power to make his way over to the platforms, and break the ice that encases them. Technically speaking, this version is more advanced, but considering how much I hate Helium Homer, I actually prefer the PS2 game here. After beating Ralph Sparklemon, we then unlock the final segment, which takes place on a flying ship.
Hi there, lad.
The Sky Sumos will activate the levers around the ship to try to shut off the engine.
Bring it, Skyho!
Ah, there are so many of them! Quick, abandon ship! Oh yeah, don't do that. Nah.
If all levers are pulled, it's game over.
No!
Both versions look very similar here, but they're quite different. The PS2 game sees you fight several waves of sumos, while the PS3 game simply sees you having to keep the engines running until the ship reaches the top of this meter. In any case, before too long, the skyship is sumo-free.
Looks like everything is ship-shape again.
And this means we can face Sherry and Terry's Sparklemon. In the PS3 game, we have to hop across some clouds to reach them, while in the PS2 game, this takes place on board the ship.
Linguo fixed his grammar, but good.
I like the callback to Linguo from Trilogy of Error, by the way.
Linguo! Dead?
Linguo is dead.
I don't exactly know what he's doing here, but it's a neat little cameo.
Terry let you win. She totally has a crush on you. Oh my god! Will you shut up? I'm serious. Yeah.
Anyway, after this final fight, Homer and Lisa return the Sparklemon to the toilet and free Mr. Sparkle.
Mr. Sparkle has risen from his banishment in the underworld.
Mr. Dirt is finally brought back down to size and begrudgingly hands us the keycard.
Hey, come on, guys, take it easy. My glasses.
And with that, Mr. Dirt is well and truly cleaned out. Speaking of which, I think it's time for another bathroom break.
We will return to our film after these very loud messages.
Nobody better lay a finger on my Butterfinger.
The final game we get to explore is Grand Theft Scratchy.
Ooh, this ought to be good.
Disappointingly, there's no stealing cars or indeed any driving involved in this level, despite what was implied earlier.
Wait, what? I thought this was a carjacking game. Where's the carjacking?
Carjacking? Who said anything about a carjacking? Oh, me.
Instead, you need to recruit a team of adorably dopey dogs to fix up the place.
Cartoon dogs, obey!
And make the Grand Theft Scratchy game more PC and child-friendly, at the same time as defeating all the pimps, prostitutes, and gangsters.
Now I know pain.
There are a lot of visual gags in this level, most of which are very amusing. But it gets rather tiresome. It feels a little lackluster considering the Grand Theft Scratchy game has been a running theme since the beginning, and it doesn't really amount to anything memorable.
Extreme Makeover, Marge Edition.
It feels like a very by-the-numbers Marge level. The most entertaining part is when you need to use Maggie to change the rap music at the radio station. And it's very amusing that it then starts blasting out That's What Friends Are For by Dionne Warwick on a constant loop. For some reason, a longer excerpt of the song is heard in the PS3 version. I'm not sure if that's a selling point or what.
That song is so lame.
So lame that it's cool?
No.
Honestly, kids have no taste these days.
The level is kinda long and tedious overall, despite its good humour, and with very little music besides Dionne Warwick, it feels kind of unfinished to me. The PS2 copy especially, there's just no atmosphere. I like the idea behind censoring the place, it's a very Marge thing to do after all, but it does feel rather desolate, and easily the weakest of the 4 video game levels set inside the game engine. Towards the end, Lisa needs to make a bridge, and once again, this is achieved very differently in both games. In the PS3 game, you need to freeze the Scratchies, and drop them in the water. While in the PS2 game, you have to use some surrounding structures to form the bridge. I actually think this is more interesting, although for some reason the piece of road you need to use takes a hell of a long time to rotate so that it fits in place.
Boring. Let's watch something else.
Towards the end, we come across Pooch's rap show.
Papa Camp in the essence, so says Poochie.
But before we can reach the stage, there's a sequence in which you need to use Lisa's Buddha hand to drop barrels on prostitutes. In the PS2 version, you can actually still use your Buddha lightning power here, which kinda defeats the object. Where's the challenge exactly? Shortly after this, Marge uses her mob to destroy Pooch's stage. I feel as though it should feel like the level is building to a dramatic climax, but it's not especially exciting or challenging. And again, in the PS2 game, everything feels very muted and empty. With Pooch's stage destroyed, Marge finally succeeds in censoring the game.
Great work, ladies. We finally made this video game safe for children.
And it seems that's a wrap.
With all 4 keycards, we can finally access the mansion of the creator.
Go get him, guys. Get your initials at the top of that high score screen.
This opens the level 5 characters in search of an author. And this is interesting to me because the PS2 version is much more elaborate.
So they want a war! Well, then it's a war they'll get.
As Homer and Bart venture forth to confront their creator, aka Matt Groening, they come face to face with many duplicates of the blue-haired lawyer. In the PS3 version, these guys spawn from cars outside the mansion, while the majority of the level is a boss fight against Groening. Meanwhile, in the PS2 version, the lawyers are a constant annoyance throughout the mansion, which is actually much more puzzle-oriented than its PS3 counterpart. There's a rather lengthy sequence involving the use of mirrors to deflect a light beam to eventually open the door to Groening's office. And this sequence is totally omitted from the PS3 game. Since the 2 versions of this level look so different, the use of the PS3's cutscenes in the PS2 game is really jarring. There are background decorations seen in the opening cutscene that are totally absent, and this room doesn't even feature in this copy of the game.
Boy, I really hope somebody got fired for that blunder.
When Homer and Bart finally encounter Groening, he produces copies of Bender and Zoidberg from Futurama to take care of them.
Say hello to my little friends. Aw, snap!
For some reason in the PS2 version, they decided to give all the Benders a chef's toque. I mean, I know he's the Planet Express cook, when the episode calls for it, but why he's wearing it here is a mystery to me. Also, this part actually ages the game quite a bit, as Bender says, "I'm coming back strong on DVD, baby!" Which is a reference to the fact that, at the time, Futurama had just been revived for 4 straight-to-DVD movies.
We're back, baby!
This reference would likely be lost on anyone new to the game.
Kind of ironic that a Futurama reference is so dated.
In the PS2 version, defeating all the Benders and Zoidbergs is mandatory, while in the PS3 game, you just need to defeat Matt Groening.
Wow, I've never seen him so, well, animated.
Kick him!
Before long, Groening makes his escape, but not before pressing the
Video game engine self-destruct button! So long, suckers!
The Simpsons and all the video game characters then flee the game engine, and in a frankly wild twist, Lisa then proposes they talk to God, and builds a stairway to heaven out of Springfield buildings using her Buddha hand.
Awesome! Ooh, hope your stores aren't all closed.
These scenes are comprised of 2 separate cutscenes, and one thing I noticed was that the second one cannot be found in the PS2 movies menu. The Stairway to Heaven clip ends before Lisa builds the titular stairway. This seems to be an oversight on the developer's part, as the full clip is present in the PS3 menu. Anyway, eventually we arrive in heaven for the last level.
Game over, mate.
Here, Homer and Bart engage in a fight against William Shakespeare?
Meteoric, a fellow of infinite death!
Yep, it's Bart versus the Bard.
Alas, Horatio, I kicked your butt.
Both versions of this fight are slightly different, but equally as annoying and, well, weird.
A plague on both your asses.
After this, both versions of this level are rather different. The PS2 version sees you take control of Bart and Lisa for the rest of the level,
My turn.
while the PS3 game sees you take control of all 4 characters.
Tag in.
This may sound strange, but I actually think I prefer the PS2 in this instance. Having to flick through all 4 characters to select the character you want is a little irritating. Also, while it's nice to see Marge get some screen time, she barely serves a purpose for the majority of the level. There are several clever references to the show here as usual, such as the appearance of Billy Graham's Bible Blaster,
Keep firing! Convert the heathens!
the Touch of Death game from When Flanders Failed, and a nod to Maud Flanders, who I still say should never have been killed off.
Yeah, I'm still pretty, shirty about that.
All the references here are very well done, but for me personally, the meta jokes get a little bit too much. I'll admit it's clever. They reuse enemies from earlier levels because, of course, they died before and now you're in heaven, so it makes sense. Sort of. Although I'm not sure why the aliens are in heaven at all, let alone human heaven. This might just be me, but this ending kind of feels a bit too surreal. It's amusing, but it feels a little forced, and the fact that it takes place immediately after the mat-graining boss fight makes it feel like it's outstaying its welcome.
I hate when things get worn out. Socks, welcomes.
Like I say, this is just my personal opinion, but it kind of feels to me like the writers were trying a bit too hard.
Ooh, that's gotta hurt.
In the latter stages of this level, we need to build a Starbucks. Since Marge is absent in the PS2 game, this is a job for Lisa. However, the PS3 version cleverly makes use of the Mobbits who sacrificed themselves earlier. It's like a clever little Chekhov's gun moment, but is it worth having Marge present for the whole level when this is her only time to shine? Not really. We then have a mini boss fight against, Benjamin Franklin.
It's time you all learned that heaven can be a hell of a place.
What in heaven's name is going on?
Early to bed for you, kid.
This is really easy in the PS2 game, but Jesus Christ, he's tough as nails in the PS3 version. When you eventually defeat him, he splits into several smaller versions of himself.
Take that, Mr. President.
I, was never president. I invented some kind of stove.
Oh. Okay.
Ow, my giant ass!
I do find it amusing that, while he's reeling off a bunch of quotes, at one point he accidentally quotes Shakespeare.
All the world's a stage. Wait, that's Shakespeare, sorry.
It's so stupid, but it got a laugh out of me. Humor aside, this fight almost made me rage quit.
Maybe it's time to quit the game.
Hold your horses, partner. We're nearly at the end.
After Benjamin Franklin has been dealt with, the Simpsons ascend the escalator to God.
Is someone there? I don't have any money.
Where it turns out he's the one who's been playing the game that constitutes their lives.
Yeah, God, you used to be cool.
Just because I'm a gamer doesn't mean I'm not cool.
Finally, the family gets the chance to beat him at his own game.
Which is apparently Dance Dance Revolution.
That's right, both games end with a dance-off against God himself, and not a very good one.
Great. Way to hurt God's feelings.
The PS2 version feels particularly lifeless. The music feels sort of muted, and seems to go on forever. I feel as though the intention was to make this final dance-off bitterly anticlimactic, but the game never acknowledges it as such. Is this supposed to be an ironic showcase of a cliché, or is it just genuinely terrible?
I'm like the Michael Jordan of video games.
Speaking of which, this sequence does not trigger a cliché. I found this rather strange, since having a dance-off in place of an epic battle sequence is absolutely a cliché in my experience. After destroying his consoles and threatening to dispose of his saved games, God eventually acquiesces to their demands.
Time for some answers. Who are we?
And explains that not only are they in a video game, but the people who developed their game are also in a video game themselves, titled Planet Earth. And as the game concludes, Lisa asks one final thought-provoking question.
Do you ever wonder if you're a character in a video game?
As the camera pulls out, we see that this is all in a video game played by Ralph, like some kind of weird video game Inception thing.
Daddy? Someone's looking at me!
And in terms of the game's story, that's the end. Ah, but I'm not done yet. I want to achieve 100%. Okay, fine. Let's cut to commercial again.
We'll return for the remainder of the conclusion after these messages.
Nobody better lay a finger on my Butterfinger.
Now, for 100% completion, both games are rather different. Obviously, both require you to find all of the cliches and collectibles. Although this is much tougher in the PS3 game, largely due to there being an extra 75 collectibles for each character hidden across Springfield. Yes, 75 each. That's a whopping 300 more collectibles to find. The PS3 game also contains some more cryptic puzzles, like having Bart activate the games at the pier with his slingshot. Or having MILF Marge instruct all of the Mobbits to sit at some tables to make a coupon appear. You know, while a dragon is destroying their homes.
We've got time for a mead break, I guess.
Finding all the collectibles around Springfield is rather tedious. Honestly, I wound up spending hours searching every nook and cranny for these things, and in the end I had to use a walkthrough for a couple of them. Marge's try and save coupons are particularly annoying, as a lot of them aren't out in the open, but in vents for Maggie to crawl through. It would help a great deal if the game explicitly told you that you'd already cleared a vent, rather than having to go back and check.
Be careful, little Maggie?
One thing I find a little bizarre is that you'll often need 2 specific characters to work together to reach the items, and yet in Springfield you can only control 2 at a time. Since the final level, Game Over, lets you cycle through all 4 characters, I imagine they would have allowed you to do this in Springfield after clearing the main game. Instead, you have to constantly switch characters and wait for the map to reload all over again. It's a really slow process, and the rewards for collecting all the items are a little bit lackluster. Don't get me wrong, I'm happy there are rewards at all, but considering just how many items there are, this feels like the bare minimum. If you find all of Homer's Duff bottle caps in Springfield, you're rewarded with a beer keg. If you find all the Malibu Stacy seals, you receive the Malibu Stacy Dream House. Finding all of Marge's coupons rewards you with a home hair salon, and finding all the Krusty coupons rewards you with a giant Krusty doll. Which looks absolutely horrifying.
The horrors! I never did like clowns. You sure you want that thing in your room, Bart?
Can't sleep. Clown will eat me.
Finding all the collectibles in the game also means the family now has infinite power. Which is cool, I guess, although after walking around Springfield for hours on end, I don't much feel like playing it again for a little while. In order to officially achieve 100% clearance, you also need to complete all of the time challenges. Now, a time challenge is unlocked after completing a main level. Most of these are fairly easy to beat, but 1 or 2 are absolute bastards. The time challenge for Shadow of the Colossal Donut requires you to find and defeat all the Krusty dolls. Which doesn't sound too bad, but these guys all stand completely still in locations all around the map, and the area is rather large, so completing this in the time limits is rather difficult. Meanwhile, the time challenge for Bargain Bin is horrendous. It's basically just like the level, except they've added a bunch of really tough enemies. One thing that majorly bothers me about this one is that the other character often loses health when they're left alone. You can revive them as usual, but it just wastes time, and often you need to backtrack to find where they are. It's a pain. One of the worst challenges is the NeverQuest challenge, in which you need to defeat 500 Morks before time runs out. It's very tight, and it doesn't help that Ghost Otto appears now and again and takes out a chunk of your health. Another awkward challenge is 5 characters in search of an author, in which you need to defeat 30 Benders and Zoidbergs. These guys are majorly overpowered. I eventually managed to beat them by constantly powering up my Homer burps. Strangely, I expected the final Game Over challenge to be one of the most unbearable, as it's a Helium Homer challenge. But to my surprise, I found this to be one of the easiest. I didn't particularly enjoy it though.
It's bearable, but I certainly wouldn't call it heavenly.
I also find it kind of amusing that this is essentially a fly through all the rings challenge, and yet it doesn't trigger a cliche.
Seriously, to me, this is more of a cliche than hanging from a ledge for ages.
Not again!
Meanwhile, if you want 100% completion in the PS2 game, you need to complete every level within a certain time limit and without dying. But since there is no reward, it's fairly pointless. On the one hand, they're fortunately lenient here, in that if your CPU partner dies, it does not count as a death. But one thing that I absolutely despise is that there are obviously times when you need to switch characters, but the CPU-controlled character might be on the brink of death for all you know. It's simply not fair if you switch to them and they're on their last legs.
Tell it to the end.
Interestingly, the PS3 game also features suggested time limits for each level, but these are purely optional and don't count towards the game's completion.
Isn't that just pointless busy work?
Bullseye.
Okay, so as for my overall conclusion, I'm gonna have to give 2 separate ratings for the different versions, as the difference in quality is fairly drastic.
Well, duh.
But before I do, I just want to mention some pros and cons present in both versions.
First of all, I love that every character has their own unique abilities. Some are more interesting and more fluid than others, but they really tried here.
May tranquility be yours.
I do have some issues related to the game's narrative and pacing. Considering the length of the game, it does feel as if they tried to cram in as much as possible. There are many ideas here, and yes, many of them are executed well enough.
Humans rule, aliens drool.
But the story takes far too many byways for my liking. In this respect, it is very much like a Simpsons episode from this era. Rather than having one solid narrative, it seems to jump from point A to point B with very little cohesion. In my opinion, the levels in the game engine are some of the most inspired, and it's kind of a shame that we don't get to see more of this.
This feels surprisingly good.
With this overview out of the way, now I'm going to give my overall thoughts about the different versions, starting with the PS2 copy.
Worst video game ever.
Yeah, contrary to what Comic Book Guy might think, this is not the worst game ever.
I have landed on my health bar.
I'll admit that the PS2 version is on the whole a lesser experience, but that's not to say it's bad. The absence of Springfield really dampens the experience, and makes the plot feel more episodic than it already is. From a technical standpoint, I also encountered more issues with the AI, camera, and combat, with the hit detection in particular being incredibly frustrating. But there are aspects of this version that I strangely prefer to the PS3 game, such as the ending to NeverQuest, additional puzzles, and the way the power meter is utilised.
Donut.
I like that Homer's ball power and Bart's ammo are separate from the power meter, and that you can still perform certain abilities when the meter runs out. You could argue that the PS3 version simplifies this, and is therefore an improvement, but I like this distinction. Overall though, despite some aspects that I appreciate, this version is definitely inferior.
With all this equipment, you think games would be better.
Your game is very nice.
Meanwhile, playing the PS3 version immediately afterwards feels like you're watching a director's cut. It feels as though it has much more cohesion, even if that's just due to the presence of Springfield.
Hello, my fellow vegetarian.
While I maintain that Springfield itself could feel much livelier, the developers did a decent job.
Hey there, little dude.
One aspect of this version that I'm not keen on though, is that some of the collectibles and cliches are really obscure. You have to do certain things by pure chance to trigger some of the cliches, and searching high and low for items in Springfield quickly becomes tedious as hell. But on the whole, I think this game is surprisingly high quality. It's far from perfect, but the gameplay is interesting enough to hold your attention, and much of the game is very funny.
Hey, don't make me come over there. Okay, you called my bluff.
I also think this version does a better job conveying its purpose as a tribute to classic video games. There are several sequences that are clearly inspired by retro game classics, or that showcase typical video game tropes. On the whole, I would say this game is massively underrated. There's so much detail packed into it, and even though there is some mild gameplay issues here and there, there's nothing too severe. This game is a must for any Simpsons and video game fan. It may not have been nearly as big a hit as Hit and Run, but for the most part, this game is
excellent.
And that's just about everything.
Can I go home now?
No. Go! Before I go, I just want to quickly say thank you for 9,000 subscribers. This video took a while to make, but hey, we got there eventually. A massive thank you to my patrons, Alex C, Heather McKnight, Upside Clown, Anthony Gallagher, FreeSpooky5Me, Volico72, and Matthew Shaw. Thank you also to my free patrons, Samantha Thorngate, Mike Santana, Dinosaur Bites, Jennifer Erzan, Jeremy Miller, Yukanai Yuko, Alma Elma, Kira Flameheart, D Snuts, Hannah Kingdon, Michael Shields, GamerKid96, and Mood Faik. And a special thank you to my channel members, Jenny Fox, Mr. D, Reunion, Jeremy Miller, and FreeSpooky5Me. And that's all I have to say. No, really, you can leave now.
Oh my god, it's over. We're free!
Bye-bye, kids. Plant